Good morning, Southeast Missouri, and wherever you may be listening. This is the Retirement Playbook brought to you by Paul Wealth Management. We are the retirement people, and we're here every Saturday morning bringing you some great information right here on YouTube. Tony Shore, good morning. How are you, buddy?
I am doing great. Well, we're on radio. We're on all the major podcast sites. And now, unfortunately for our viewers, we're on YouTube. I've been in radio for 35 years for a reason, Brock. There's a reason that I never did video. And I think our viewers will see what I'm
I
talking.
get so excited, though, because this is a new thing, and new is exciting, Tony.
True, it
And
is.
yeah, and so YouTube, and like you said, yeah, podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, you can check us out, and then right here on KZIM, KSIM as well. So I just want to know, Tony, one thing.
Okay.
Did you eat pizza this week?
I did. In fact, I made a really good homemade pizza, Brock. And
I've
my
been doing the same
pizza,
thing.
my homemade pizza is the bomb. I'm just going to tell you.
Okay, the 1990 called and they want their words back. The bomb? What are you talking about? The bomb? Anyway, so what's funny about
You're
that,
killing
Tony,
me.
is that I started doing the same thing. Seriously, I've got this pizza oven, and it's a gas deal. You know, they've got wood and they've got gas and they've got combo ones too.
Sure.
And so I've been trying different. I'd love to hear your input on this. I've been trying different crust. What am I trying to say? The dough. Thank you. Yes, I've been trying different doughs. The Italian, takes 24 hours to sit around, and then I've been trying the instant ones where it's basically 5 minutes and you're ready to rock. Whoa, okay.
That's a boom.
That's a boom.
That's not from the 90s.
That's definitely not from the, see, Tony's mad now. Okay. I am so sorry, buddy. But anyway, so what I've kind of found is it didn't really make a big difference. And so anyway, it's really fun to do. What I've been doing is kind of perfecting my technique with the amount of ingredients and how we cook the dough. So here's what I landed on, and I want to get your thoughts.
Okay.
Here's what I landed on. I make the dough, okay, and I put the olive oil on it, and I put it in the oven by itself with nothing. I do that for like 5 minutes, and my thing is like at 500 degrees. So I have this little infrared, shooter that tells me what the temperature of the surface is. And so I do that for like 5 minutes. I take it out. I put my sauce, I put my cheese and my toppings on there, and then I put it back in because I get a little bit crispier crust doing that, and I like that a lot. And it doesn't burn the cheese, because if you don't pre-cook it a little bit, it will burn the cheese. And no one likes to burn the cheese, Tony.
Yes, if you're using fresh dough, you have to pre-cook it a little bit. Otherwise, it doesn't get all the way done in the center for me, especially if you're using a regular oven. I pre-cook the dough between 5 and 10 minutes, depends on how thick the crust is.
Sure.
But 5 minutes, you pre-cook the dough, you have olive oil on it. I put a little Italian seasoning after it, and then I take it out, put the sauce on, and you can buy Italian pizza seasoning. And if you just sprinkle a little bit of that on, usually I put the sauce and the cheese on. But my favorite is sausage too. I grill up from fresh raw sausage and then put it over the pizza.
I'm not a big sausage fan because of the fennel. I don't like black licorice tasting stuff, so the fennel sometimes throws me off. If it doesn't have
you're
fennel
eating
in
the
it,
wrong.
I'm okay.
Yeah, no. The sausage I use doesn't have fennel in it.
Okay.
No. Oh yeah, you don't want fennel. Oh my gosh, you're using like some of the real Italian sausages have fennel. No. You just want a standard Jimmy Dean sausage. Seriously, Jimmy Dean sausage. I'm telling you, makes the best pizza.
Okay. Yeah. All right, guys. We digress. I apologize, but Tony and I, we love pizza.
Yeah.
And
what's not to love?
What's not to love, right? It's my
but
favorite thing.
Speaking of pizza, how are we going to transition from our love of pizza to staying healthy in retirement? That's
This is financial protection for a healthy retirement, not losing weight for a healthy retirement. And by the way, like I worked with a guy, he'd always said this. Look, I work out 3 to 4, maybe 5 times a week so I can eat whatever I want. And that's
There
a
you go.
pretty wise thing to kind of follow. It's like, okay, if you work out, man, you can eat a little pizza here and there, and it won't,
Right.
blow you up on your
Well,
on your
my
fitness.
grandfather lived to 101, and he was literally camping 2 months before he passed away at 101. He was still driving at 100, and he ate bacon and every morning he had bacon, and every bite of toast or potatoes or whatever he had a slab of butter off the end. He ate a slab with each bite. And so people are like, well, that's not, people would say his diet was not healthy, right? He ate a lot of meat and potatoes, but guess what? He worked. He went out every morning at 6
Mhm.
a.m. and he
Mhm.
didn't come back in until
Right.
5 p.m. and
Right.
he physically worked every day out on the farm. And
Well,
that's,
there
I
you
think, the
go.
key. And
That's
whereas I haven't exercised since the Carter administration. So
well,
it's been a
okay.
couple of
That's a wrap, folks. That's the show today. We'll talk to you next week. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so let's get to the information here. So this is what we're talking about today is flexible protection for a healthy retirement, okay? And so I'd like to reference this survey that was done in 2021, so a couple of years old here, cost of care survey by Genworth. The typical cost of a semi-private room in a nursing home is nearly $8,000 per month, and a private room just more than $9,000 per month. And when you recall that Medicare doesn't generally cover these long-term care expenses like nursing home stays, assisted living, adult daycare, acute care, things like that, Tony, it becomes more urgent to build a financial strategy. Okay. And when we're talking about strategy, are we saying just go out and buy a long-term care insurance policy? That could be part of it, right? But we also have other tools that you can use to make sure that this is covered. Okay. And in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a specific product that has really made this world way more manageable for a lot of folks, Tony. It's really, really exciting, and it's some new products that are offered by some new companies out there. We're going to get into that in just 1 second. All right. So let's start by highlighting a couple common things that most of my clients have done to prepare for retirement, right? You've got your 401ks or something similar. You've got your expenses figured out with your budget. You've got all of these things figured out, right? And so that's what we do. We help people make sure that what, Tony? They don't run out of money. That's the number one concern. Nobody wants to run out of money in retirement. And so building that is unique and customized to each person, right? So in other words, I want to travel. I want to do more things in the first 10 years of retirement, Brock. So let's build a plan that I get a little bit more income in those first 10 years of retirement. And then from there, it kind of, levels off and maybe even goes down a little bit. But what happens in the later ages is what? You have a big risk of long-term care needs, right? And so having a plan in place, the earlier the better, just like planning for your retirement is very important. Excuse me, very, very important. Okay. When you're talking about financial protection, you're also talking about protecting your income, just like you buy insurance to protect your house, right? Or your cars. You got to have financial protection to protect your income. And that's really what we're talking about here. Because if you have to use your retirement allocated assets that you've allocated to create income to pay for long-term care, there's a much better chance that you're going to run out of money at some point. Okay. So everybody, I think, understands there is a need. And if you have an older parent or grandparent that you've seen kind of go through this process of needing to go to a nursing home, needing to go to an assisted living, needing to have in-home care, you know how expensive it is and how draining it is on the entire family. We're going through this right now with my wife's grandma. We went through it with her other grandma a few years ago. So, Tony, I know I've been through it now twice, and I know you've probably have experience with this as well.
Well, yeah, my mom is currently needs full-time care. She is on the late stages of Parkinson's and Lewy bodies. Right now, her care is $10,000 a month. And
That's
this isn't at a huge private fancy facility either. It's a good facility with great care. They're highly rated, which is why she's there, but it's in a small Midwestern town, and she's getting good care, but it is outrageously expensive.
It is crazy expensive. I will tell you a few years ago when we were dealing with Danielle's other grandma, it was 12,000 a month because she needed 24-hour
Yep.
care, Tony. And
Yeah,
so,
memory care is
yeah,
$12,000 a month in a nice facility. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
and a lot of those nicer facilities, the private ones like my mother-in-law is in, when she needs memory care, which she will need eventually, it's gonna
Hmm.
be about $12,000 a month there, but Medicaid won't cover that. So,
Right.
obviously, when her money runs out, she'll have to go to a facility, memory care unit where they accept Medicaid. And Medicaid is basically only kicks in your state and Medicaid once you've completely run out of money. And Medicare really doesn't cover long-term care, does it?
No, it doesn't. So it might cover the first 120 days, for example. If a doctor says, oh, first of all, you have to have been in the hospital for a certain amount of time. I believe most
Yep.
states are 3 days. And so you have to be in a hospital for 3 days. And then the doctor has to write a note saying, yes, you definitely need some care here. And then they'll put you in a facility and pay for the first, I believe it's around
It's
120 days.
Yeah,
So,
it's actually between 90 and 120, I think. It's usually around 100, but only if you meet certain criteria, only if you go
oh, for
directly
sure.
from a
Right.
hospital, say, right?
But
Yeah.
it's not only, the paying for the care, Tony. It's what I have seen in my experience is all of the other stuff that you have to do when this need arises. Okay? So let me explain to you what I mean by that. Cuz we're going through this right now. Um, most people don't plan for things until they have to. Okay. And
Right.
it's just their nature. And so, as advisors, we try to get people to do it before that need arises. And so, what we've seen is that when someone needs care, the other stuff, and it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, this may be you know, a bad situation. It may be terminal, those kinds of things. And so, do we have all of the other financial stuff done? So, in other words, if they pass, what then happens? So, do we have beneficiaries on all of our accounts? Do we have a power of attorney? Okay. Making sure that we not only have it for healthcare, but we also have it for financial. Okay. Your power of attorneys are very, very important. Also, making sure again that you have your beneficiaries on your accounts. You have a beneficiary deed on your home. You have a handwritten list of who gets what. Okay, we've talked about that before with an estate planning show before, Tony. Who gets what? That's hugely, hugely important. And again, often kind of gets paired with the long-term care, using long-term care and needing long-term care. So the earlier you can do that and get that part out of the way, it makes it when we actually need the services so much easier because it's already emotionally tough, right? It's been emotionally tough putting my wife's grandma in a facility,
Yeah.
because it's like that's not what she wants at all. But it's what has to happen because no one can help her at her home. So it's if you're already dealing with high emotions and we don't want to make it worse, get that part of it, folks, figured out. Get your financial power of attorneys, your healthcare directives. Make sure that you have all of the beneficiaries on all of the accounts, your beneficiary deed on your home, because when it comes time for your long-term care to kick in, it's going to, again, make it so much, so much easier. Okay,
Yeah.
Tony, let's move on and let's
Okay.
talk about some solutions here when we're talking about long-term care.
Yeah, there are a
Um,
number of options and strategies that people can use, right?
For sure. So, it kind of depends on, again, with anything financial, it's very customized to your situation. Okay. So, we know that 70% of people over the age of 65 are going to need some type of long term care in their life. 70%, Timmy.
Yeah.
And we all know that if you've looked into long term care, traditional long term care insurance, has become very expensive. Now, is it still worth it in a lot of cases? Probably so. So, yeah, you're looking at this bill and the annual premium, you're going, gosh, dang, how am I going to afford this? But how are you going to afford long-term care when it comes? Right? So, we got to look at every option to make sure which one is best for you. I will tell you that this has evolved immensely in the last few years, Tony, because so many companies have gotten out of the traditional long-term care business. So they're out of it because why? The baby boomer generation. 10,000 people turning 65 every single day in this country. They're going to need some kind of care. Where are they going to get it? And who's going to pay for it? Are they going to have all the planning and pieces to make sure that they can go where they want, when they want, and how they want? So these are the questions that we ask of how old are you? First of all, because that determines on the kind of care or plan we could set up for you. For example, my wife and I, we have what we call a tradition. We have a fixed indexed universal life policy. So what that means is that we can build cash value with this policy. And we overfund it for however many years, 20 years, let's just call it. Okay. So we have a bucket of money there with the cash value, but we also have a very sizable death benefit. And the death benefit is considered a living benefit for me if I need it for long-term care. In other words, I can't perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living. Okay. So if you qualify for it because of your situation, then you can access the death benefit. Okay. So for example, I might have, $50,000 of cash value in this policy to help pay for it, but I might have a $1.6 million death benefit, Tony. That's the bucket of money, the 1.6 that I can tap into to help pay for long-term care. That is a really attractive option, especially for people in their 40s. If they want to, hey, I've got a life insurance need because I've got a family, great. That's even better. Then I've got a long-term care need that I'm going to fill at some going to have, filled at some point. So how do I do it? Well, you can do it through these life insurance policies. Okay. So from there,
it's not like that money is lost like the traditional long-term care policy, right? Because traditional long-term care policies used to be you had a really high monthly premium, but there was no cash value. And if you didn't end up needing long-term care, that money was gone. But with the type of situation and strategy you're talking about with
right,
cash value life insurance,
right.
the death benefit will be there for your loved ones if you don't end up using it for long-term care. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying, Tony. And so you can even customize it even further from there to say, okay, we're going to minimally fund this for the first 10 years because I just want to pay enough premium to keep the death benefit and everything going for a while. So you can kind of, if your budget's a little thin, you can, pay the minimum premium. Or you can go to the flip side of that and go, hey, I want this bucket of money to supplement my retirement funds. Okay. You can do that. And by the way, if you structure it correctly, you can pull that money out to supplement your retirement income tax free.
Those are
Yes,
the
you've
words
heard
we
that.
want to hear. Yeah.
Exactly.
Tax-free income in retirement from a cash value life insurance policy.
Exactly. And so
Wow.
you can cover a lot of needs there with this one particular product. And I really like the fixed index option because I don't have risk in the market. I have market upside, but I don't have the risk of the market because I can't lose money due to the market with this particular product. Okay. Not everyone, works that way, right? There's variable policies and, whatever else. But I like that strategy because I get some growth out of it. I get potential income out of it. I get death benefit protection and I have long-term care protection. To me, it's the Swiss Army knife, right? And so
Mm.
I really, really like that option. I'm a big fan of it. Okay. So that's not for everybody. And by the way, if you're not in your 40s and 50s, it's maybe not the best strategy. As you get closer to needing it, maybe you're in your 60s and you go, Brock, I need something now because I've waited a little too long. I didn't have the money, whatever the situation may be. There are some products that are out there for you folks. Okay. What I mean by that is that you can make a what they're called hybrid policies where you dump in a bucket of money into this and you're done. There's no annual premiums. You just put a single premium, you put it into this thing, and it has leverage. Really, that's what we're talking about with these types of products is leverage. So you put in, for example, 50,000, you might get 200 or $250,000 of coverage for long-term care. Which, by the way, can be tax-free as well. So you've not only, leveraged this thing up 4 or 5 times, but it's also tax advantaged. So that's a very good option, right? There's a little bit of a death benefit typically with those products, but not much. But the nice thing about that is that you still have access to a portion of the money that you put into these things. And then you also have a death benefit, and then you also have this long-term care. So my story there a lot of times is, look, someone is going to use this policy at some point. Either you're going to use it for long-term care, you could take it out in an emergency, a portion of your dollars, and then also if you use it for long-term care, it's a really good way to do that. Okay, so another option that has come about, Tony, I wanted to talk about is that in the last year or so is asset-based, just like what we were just talking about, but your money can actually grow. Okay. So it's a customized answer or solution for everybody based on your situation. So the first option with life insurance might be the best. The hybrid might be a really good option. And then the third one is annuity based. Okay. Annuity based means you put money into the contract. Okay. It can grow based on the annuity parameters, but then you also have leverage, just like you do with the second option for long term care. Now, you may not get quite as much leverage because you're getting growth on your dollars. Okay. So it really kind of depends on what you need, what you want, and we can develop the right strategy depending on, again, your situation with your cash and other investments. So, anyway, Tony, that's a really good option, by the way. And they have a guaranteed option where no matter how unhealthy you are, you can qualify for this product at some level. So they have a guaranteed issue, they have a standard rating, and then they have a preferred rating. So if you need this and you need long-term care, you are guaranteed to be qualified at some level.
Wow. So, and I think a lot of our listeners out there, Brock, and viewers, they probably think, oh, that's not me. I'm not going to need long-term care.
Right.
But almost 2 out of every 3 people will need long-term care is what they're saying, that live over 65. If you live to age 65 or older, there's over a 70% chance you will need long-term care. So
Yeah.
you or your spouse or both will end up needing it. So you really need to plan for it.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
healthcare and retirement alone, you've said on previous shows, Brock, I forget what the exact figure is. It was somewhere between $230,000 and $300,000.
Correct.
Is
Closer
what
to
the
300 now.
average, 300, the average couple spends on out-of-pocket healthcare costs after 65.
That's correct.
In retirement. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
you have to plan for it, right?
You have to plan for it. So that's living to age 90. From 65 to 90, as Tony said, you on average, you would have somewhere around $300,000 of total cost in your retirement. So we have to have a strategy for that. Now, obviously, that's, paid overtime and paid monthly and all that kind of stuff. But my point is that ends up being a pretty big number.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's just for your health care, that doesn't include cost for your long-term care.
Right.
So
long-term care is not included in that.
Long-term care is not included. So we need to develop plans to not only make sure you don't run out of money, but that it's protected and your income is protected if you need for long-term care. And so, again, we just need to customize a plan to fit for your needs and wants.
Yeah, and you've talked a lot on past shows about retirement income planning and financial planning. So it sounds like healthcare is a big part of this.
Healthcare is a huge part of it. In fact, Tony, I would say it's the number one reason why people don't retire before 65. It's because of the rising cost of healthcare in our country.
Sure. And then Medicare really kicks in and helps with that, but there are still premiums, deductibles, and costs and things Medicare doesn't cover. And people, I think, forget about that. They think I don't have to worry once I'm 65 about healthcare costs because of Medicare.
Right. And that's just not true. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but
unfortunately,
yeah, just making sure that you have a plan, folks. That's what this show is all about, to make sure and educate you that there are solutions out there. Don't just put your head in the sand and go, oh, well, the government will take care of me. I'll get on Medicare, Medicaid, and all this other stuff. That might be true. But the bottom line is you got to have a plan to make sure that you will and your spouse will be taken care of.
Exactly. Well, Brock, we're out of time. It flew by once again. Yeah, it did. Well, let our listeners know before we go how they can get a hold of you to get a plan in place.
Yeah, give us a call at Alspal Wealth Management, folks, 573-332-7855, or look us up on our website. It's Alspal, A-L-S-P-A-U-G-H, wealthmanagement.com.
All right, and that does it for today's episode of the Retirement Playbook with our host, Brock Alspa.